What's up, guys? It's your favorite Kiwicoach. Welcome to part 3 of this video series on how to cure your slice. So if you haven't watched part 2, go check it out. We talked a lot about wrist angles in terms of the takeaway and backswing. So again, the reason why we have to emphasize wrist angles in the takeaway and the backswing is because it gives us a better possibility, a better chance to get a face close to a path, and that's what you guys need to do to hit your draws, right? So in part 3, we're going to be talking a lot more so about transition and the downswing in terms of wrist angles. I'm also going to give you my top drill that I use with all of my students to help you guys accomplish this. Let's go do this thing.
So close to you right now, it's a force field. I wear my heart up on my sleeve like a big deal. Your love pours down on me, surround me like a waterfall. And there's no stopping us right now. I feel so close to you right now.
Alright guys, so like I said, we're going to be talking today about transition and downswing in terms of wrist angles. Okay, so let's get into the transition first and talk about what type of wrist angles I like to see. Let's go do it. So, transition, the first thing you guys got to get is the way that the right wrist and the left wrist work and how they complement each other to get the club shaft laying down, which is club shaft pitch getting into a more of a horizontal fashion, and then as well square the face a little bit earlier so then we can rotate through the shot. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. So when we swing up to the top, the first motion is we got to get the right wrist working in this fashion. So we're going to turn that doorknob to the right like such. Now the left wrist is going to also do the same thing. We're turning that doorknob to the right, but we're also going to flex it down, or it's called flexion, or you can just think about it as revving a motorcycle, right? So together, they look like this. Now, the reason why we like that motion, the reason why we like to lay down the shaft is A, it allows us to get the proper ball flight laws, which we went over in part 1, and as well, it allows us to rotate through the shot a little bit more efficiently, which then keeps the club face squarer, longer, right? Or your ROC not as fast as the ball. So let's show you guys that one more time, and then we'll go on to the next part. So again, at the top of the swing, we want to get the right wrist to work this way, left wrist work that way as well as it turns down, and it's going to look like that. Now, some ways I see you guys mess this up is you guys add on the second part of ulnar to that, and you're going into it a little bit too early. So let me show you what that looks like from the face-on view. So we come up here, and then you guys add on this ulnar look like such, right? So you're unhinging the wrist a little bit too early. Now, a lot of the reason why you guys did that in the past was to help with that open club face. But now that we got the proper grip fundamentals from part 2, we got the proper wrist conditions in the backswing, now we're not going to have to do that, okay? So again, as we get up to the top, we're going to let the right wrist go and turn that doorknob, left wrist as well, flexion, and then no ulnar. We're going to keep the radial hinge that we have, and then that's the transition. So let's get to the next part. So I just wanted to stop and take a second to remind you guys the importance of this transitional move, because not a lot of you guys are doing this correct, and the main reason why you weren't doing it correct was club face angle, so that's why we fixed that. Now once we fix the club face angle, you're still going to have to lay down the shaft. That is a very important part. That is called shallowing the club, and that's what you guys are going to have to start doing. So again, I would recommend rewinding this video after it's done, looking at the transition, making sure you're checking in on video and making sure you're hitting my checkpoints I talked about, and then moving on to the next part. So again, check, 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 please. This is very important. All right, so the next part we're gonna be talking about is left arm parallel down into impact. This is kind of an important little positions in the downswing that you guys need to start hitting the correct wrist angles, because I really see you guys struggle in terms of release patterns from this position. Let's go do it. Alright, so let's talk about release patterns in terms of the wrist angles at left arm parallel down to impact. So, as we get up to the top of the swing, again, we're shallowing out the club, right? That right wrist is turning the doorknob to the right. We're adding on our flexion. Now, once we're down to left arm parallel right here, this is the most common release pattern I see from you guys is who slice the ball. So you come into the golf ball and you do this. So what you're doing is you're curling the left wrist under, or you're getting that left wrist pronation. Now I'm going to give you guys a second to think about this, and let's see what that does. So when I curl the left wrist under, what is that doing to the club face, guys? Again, yes, it's pointing it to the right. So again, if we want to get a face close to a path to hit our draws, let's change up that release pattern and let's get the left wrist turning the doorknob to the left and add on a little bit of that supination feel. It's gonna look like this. Up to the top, shallow inflection. Now from here, we're gonna feel like the left wrist is gradually supinating and turning down to the ground. And that's gonna get us into a really good impact position. Now there's a little bit of left wrist flexion added on as well, which gets the left wrist bowed, which then gets hands in front of the club face as well, and that'll get you shaftling. So let's go and get a little bit more of a close-up look on that feel. So again, like I said at the end of that video, coming into impact, we're gonna wanna have that left wrist flexion or that little bowed look, and that's gonna get us a touch of shaftling, correct? So this is gonna be how it looks like slowly. So as we get down from transition, we're coming in, we're supinating the left wrist, and then we're getting a little bit of this flexion look, which as you can see is gonna get hands in front of club head while we square it up. Now the reason why we like hands in front of club head is because it does what to the club? Let's think about this. De-lofts it, right? And that's why the pros are hitting it so far. So if we can couple on the correct attack angle with the correct dynamic loft, which is how much loft you're presenting at impact, you're gonna start hitting the ball really, really far for your individual swing, okay? So again, let's kind of go over this real quick because I think this last little tip is very important in terms of shaftling. So you gotta figure out how much club head speed you have and then figure out the amount of shaftling you want for that club head speed. Let me explain. So if you don't swing very fast, let's say you swing around this speed, you're not gonna wanna have a lot of shaftling because again, it's that whole hose effect. If you're not swinging fast enough and you have less loft, you're not going to get the ball up in the air and it's not going to travel as far as you want it to. Same thing goes if you're swinging this fast and you are adding loft, correct? You don't have a lot of shaftling, you're coming into the ball like this, you're going to hit the ball super high, you're not going to quite optimize your speed and your distance as well from there. So again, if you guys want to have the optimal amount of dynamic loft and shaftling, kind of those ideas, figure out your club head speed first and then match up shaftling to that. So let's get into the last part. All right guys, so I can't stress the last little tip I had about shaftling in that section. So again, you got to figure out your club head speed because you might not want a lot of shaftling because again, it's that whole hose analogy. So again, figure out what type of club head speed you're working on and figure out the amount of shaftling you need for that. My best tip is you swing a little bit slower, maybe just a couple of degrees of shaftling. You swing a little bit faster, you could probably get away with a little bit more. So the next tip we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the #1 drill I use for my students in terms of low point control and wrist angle control. Let's get to it. Time for my #1 drill I use with pretty much all my lessons in terms of low point control, strike control, wrist angles, all that good stuff. Let's take a look at what it looks like. So as you can see, we have an alignment stick, we have a head cover, and we have a golf ball, which you can get at your local range. Also a basket as well you can get at your local range, right guys? So let's go over a little bit about in terms of setup. So the golf ball is right around, I'd say, probably about 6 to 8 inches away from that head cover. Head cover height is probably right around like 3 inches off the ground. Now this alignment stick, as you can see, is going to be halfway between the golf ball and the toe line, I would say, maybe favoring the golf ball a little bit more than closer to the toe line, right? So if it was in half, maybe like 0.25 to the right of half. Now in terms of distance away from the golf ball, I'd say it's right around a lob wedge distance away, maybe a little bit shorter than that. So again, that's going to be how you guys set up this drill. And now, let's show you guys how to use it. Alright guys, so first thing I want to tell you guys, this is not a backswing drill. So again, we're not using this to get the correct backswing or anything. Don't feel like you have to loop it outside. I recommend my students doing a little bit of this, hinging the wrist, picking it up, and then turning to the top of the backswing, because again, we're really not worried about backswing on this. This is more so a downswing drill, focusing on proper wrist angles, low point, and striking the ball solid. So that is the first thing you guys got to get over. Now, obviously the objective here is, once we're at the top of the swing, we're trying to miss this alignment stick on the downswing, and we're also trying to miss this head cover on the downswing and then make solid contact, correct? So I find this to be, for my students, incredibly difficult at first for them to do, because they either nail this thing right here, which, pro tip, you might want to put a noodle on this thing because people like to hit this. But anyways, they either hit this or they hit the head cover. So I have to slow them down quite a bit do 3-second interval stops, and as well slow the speed down to about 10% before they start doing the drill correctly. So this is what the first part's gonna look like. We're gonna hinge, swing up to the top, 3, 2, 1, shallow flexion, 3, 2, 1, and then come down at 10% speed like such. And hit the ball. So as you can hear, you heard that little clicky sound, which is what we're going for. The ball went somewhat straight. I hope it goes straight at that slow of a speed, right? But again, I'm just training myself to figure out low point from that new direction, because I'm swinging from a different direction, and as well as a different angled attack, which is very hard for you guys to do. So again, when you're doing this, I highly recommend pausing at the top, adding on your flexion and your shallowing motion, and then coming down and starting out at a very slow speed. Once you hit 2 good solid ones in a row, speed it back up to about 50% speed, then 75% speed, and then ramp it up to 100 once you feel comfortable, okay? So again, this is my #1 drill in terms of getting the wrist angles down correctly and having low point control and strike control. So again, you got to start out with interval training, pause, get yourself doing stop and go drills, get yourself doing at a slower swing speed, maybe not even put a golf ball there at first, maybe put a tee, but again, eventually work yourself up to a full dynamic speed, and you guys are going to have a lot better strike control, and that's how you're going to get rid of your slice right there. All right, guys, so we are all done with part 3, and that is the final part to this video series on how to cure your slice. I hope you guys enjoyed the video series. Again, I'll be doing more series in the future on other topics as well. So if you guys want to know about anything related to golf, feel free to leave a comment below. Also like, comment, again, share, all that good stuff. Subscribe as well if you guys feel like I'm bringing you guys value. Again, guys, have a good day, and yeah, hopefully that cured your slice.